Let us try to understand JavaScript objects topic. Generally, an object is real-world entity or real-world item. Something that exists physically is called as an object. A physical item is an object. For example, there is a student, there is an employee, there is some product. There is something exists physically that is called as an object. In order to create an object in JavaScript, we have two ways, that is object literal and a constructor function. There are two ways to create objects in JavaScript, that is the first one object literal and a constructor function. Both of these are important, and in real time, in order to quickly create the object literal is best. But sometimes you want to create object based on some predefined format or predefined structure. At that time, constructor function is better. You want to create the object quickly and randomly, object literal is better. You want to create the object based on certain structure, certain format, then constructor function is better. So already we have seen the syntax of the object literal in the last class, and now in this lesson I'm going to explain about the constructor function. So what is constructor function exactly? Let's try to understand. So the constructor function, by definition, it's a function. What is constructor function? Constructor function is a function. It is a function. It is a function that receives an empty object, adds properties and methods to it, to that empty object. So the object will be full of properties and methods. So it is just like, for example, I'm giving some empty bucket for you. You are trying to filling some water inside it and returning me the particular full of bucket. You are a constructor function. So listen. So we are going to pass an empty object for this constructor function. What this constructor function will do, it will receive the empty object what you have given, and it will add the properties and methods to the particular empty object. Initially the object was empty. We are going to add the properties and methods to the particular empty object. Finally, the particular object will be full of properties and methods. So automatically that particular object will be returned from that constructor function, and that object can be stored into some variable, and we can do any manipulation on that. So why we have to follow some constructor function? It is recommended to use the constructor function if you have a specific structure to follow. For example, you want to store the student details, then student ID, name, marks, result, some certain structure you want to follow, certain format you want to follow. In case if you want to follow certain structure or format, then it is required to go for constructor function. So use constructor function if you want to create an object based on a specific structure or a specific list of fields. Structure means here list of fields. You want to follow some list of fields, then it is recommended to use constructor function. So you don't want to create the object randomly with some n number of properties or n number of methods, but you want to follow some predefined structure, certain structure as per your application requirements. Then we have to go for the constructor function. So this particular list of fields are also yours, is user defined, not exactly predefined. So what are the fields you want, you can just create. But sometimes what happens is you are going to create multiple objects in the same program, and all these objects you want to have same set of structure, same set of fields you wanted to have. At that time, constructor function is better. Okay. The look and feel of the constructor function is like this. We have a function, and we can give any name of the constructor function. Here, this function itself is a keyword which says that we are going to create a function. Generally, a function receives some arguments and returning some value. In the middle, it will do some process. Function is basically, by definition, is a collection of statements to do some particular process and return some result value, if any. So this is just like a function, but the specialty of this particular function is it is implicitly automatically receiving an empty object from you. So first you have to create an empty object, right? A new object you have to create, a fresh new object you have to create. In order to create a new object, the developer is writing a keyword called new. The moment once we have given new, automatically a new object will be created for you guys. Okay, understand? The developer is here and he is just giving a keyword like a new. The actual story will start from the new. The moment once we have given new, automatically he is going to create an object. Okay, we have given like a new, automatically an object will be created. The moment once we have given new, an object will be created. But the problem is by default that object will be just empty. We got a new object, right? So that object is by default empty. No members inside that object. We have to add the properties, we have to add the methods to the particular object. But that responsibility the developer is not taking. The developer is just passing this object to a function. The function is itself is responsible in order to add the properties and methods to the particular object. Properties are used to store the data. Methods are used to manipulate the data. So what this developer is trying to do, immediately once the object is created, once a new object created, he is immediately using something called as constructor function. He is calling constructor function. So he is just giving semicolon, that's it. So new will create a new object, right? By default the object is empty, right? Then we are going to call the constructor function, and since we have written the constructor function name right hand side of the new, which means that automatically implicitly this object will go to this function. That is the magic of the JavaScript language. See, we are not passing this object explicitly manually to this function, but automatically goes. This object reference will go to the function, and inside this particular function we can use this keyword. Yes, we can use this keyword. We must use this keyword, but inside the constructor function only. We cannot use this keyword outside the constructor function, maybe here. In this area, we cannot use this keyword. Even though we are using this keyword, here this keyword may represent some other different object, maybe window object or something. But inside the constructor function, this keyword refers to this object what we have created. This keyword inside the constructor function refers to object. This keyword outside the constructor function may refer to window or some other object, depends on context and program what you are writing. Is it audible properly for all the people, guys? Okay, right. So what I'm trying to say here, so this keyword inside the constructor function automatically by default refers to this particular object what we have created. So the moment once we have added some member into this keyword, that will be really added to whom? This particular object only. Now, since this keyword by default implicitly refers to this particular object, we can add anything to this keyword, maybe properties and methods. So we can just give property equal to value. This particular property with value will be stored inside the object. Now we can just give property equal to value. So how the property equal to value came here? Simply this property with value only will be added here. First of all, when you call the constructor function, automatically the execution flow will go to the constructor function, and this keyword by default refers to the object. That's why we have added a property to this keyword really, but this property will be added to the object. And also we can add methods, right? When we have to use property, when we have to use methods. Use property if you want to store a value. Use method if you want to do some operation, some work, some process you want to execute. So this dot method is nothing but a function inside the object. So basically a function can receive parameters, parameter 1, parameter 2, n number of parameters, and we can do some logic here, and we can return some value if required optionally. So all the regular syntax is applicable. Like this, we can create any number of methods. So here I'm just giving comma, which means that we can create any number of methods, any number of properties, any number of methods, unlimited totally. But by definition, by born, the object is not having any property, but we can add methods to the object. So this method is being stored here, including function. Method is nothing but function. So method, the function, everything will be stored. Whatever the code we have given there, everything as it is will be stored inside the object. Methods are stored inside the object. So when we add a property to this keyword, that will be stored inside the object. When we add a method to this keyword, that will be stored inside the object. Understanding now? So object will have property and method. So n number of properties and number of methods. In that way, object is ready. Object is ready to use, and it's a just matured one. Now we are ready to use it. So very simple. Step number 1, new. Creating a new object. At that time, no property, no method. Step number 2, we are calling constructor function. Step number 3, execution flow will jump to the constructor function based on the reference of the object. While executing the constructor function, the object reference is already available in this keyword. So we can read the value, we can write the value through this keyword. When you add a property, that property will be stored inside the object. When you add a method, that will be stored inside the object. Both properties and methods will be stored inside the object only. Finally, at the end of the execution of the constructor function, the object is having full of properties and methods. That's all about this. So let me show this practically. We are going to prepare some student application for this. So let me go to the file, new file. So save this. First we have to give the file name. Save it first in C::JS folder. File name is constructor function.html. File extension is .html. And we are going to create HTML head, body, everything. Constructor function. Right. How to execute the program? Somebody asking yesterday how to execute the program. Simple. Double click on the file. That's it. How to execute the program? I try to notice. Double click on the file. Which file we have created. So we have created the constructor function.html. So double click on the file. Now we can see the output here. Now I'm going to use script. I'm going to use. Script means JavaScript. Here JavaScript program begins. Here JavaScript program ends. And inside the script, I'm going to use something. For example, console.log of hello. So how to see this hello? Just you can refresh, but still no output here. So we have to go to inspect element. In the browser, inspect element, not in the editor. Some people are writing right-clicking inspect element here. Okay. So right click insert element in the browser. Go to browser and say insert element or keyboard shortcut F12. The moment once we press F12, now we can see the option like console. Now in the console, now we can see hello. Correct now. So the same what we have given here. Anyway, the actual matter is that I wanted to create some student details. So I want to create student ID, student name, marks, and result. Result may be pass or fail. Result should give pass or fail. So this is my requirement I'm just giving. So how do we prepare it? So yes, we can create object easily by using new. By just using new, you are able to create object easily. It's not a valid statement, of course, but if you just run this, we are getting error. Okay, but new definitely will create a new object. Okay, so just if you give like this, now we can see an object is created. Forget about what we have written here, but just assume new. By giving new, what exactly happens? An object is created. Now forget about this hello also. Okay, just an object is created. Object you can see, right? So just object is empty, by default empty object. This is what I was explaining about empty object here. I mean, when you say new, it was like this. Just empty object, nothing inside it. So how many members inside it? What members? It depends on your code. This function. For example, this dot x equal to 10, this dot y equal to 20. So this x and y values will be stored inside the object. Here this means which this new keyword this means through new keyword we have created one object, right? That object only will go to this. See here new keyword, this keyword both are referring to same object. But the difference is new is making an object, I mean creating object. This keyword accessing the same object. That is the difference. So now we can see an object with the x and y properties, but this is not a recommended approach to follow because the constructor functions usually contains lots of code. I mean, a huge number of lines of code. Writing everything inside a single line like this is not recommended. Better, we have to make it a separate function with a proper function name. For example, we can give some student. So we can write this code line well and comfortably. So this is much better approach so that even though we have lots of members, we can just easily work with. Now simply we have to mention this one here. Okay, so this is the proper approach for the programming. So now we can see same thing. What we have done before a moment, same thing. So we have x and y, right? So we have a constructor function and we are going to call the constructor function with a new keyword. And we are going to add the this x and y values to this keyword. Adding to this keyword doesn't mean that it will be stored somewhere else. It will be stored in the same object what we have created using new keyword. Simple point I'm going to tell. Very simple. First new. Execution story starts from new. Empty object is there. Okay, leave it. Then constructor function is being called. It is coming here. Okay, fine. Whatever x and y we have given, that will be added to the object what we have created. Empty object is created, right? Empty object. In that empty object only the x and y will be stored. That's it. Now the object is ready. So if suddenly somebody asking what is the purpose of this constructor function? Without the constructor function also I am able to create object, right? Yes, we can create, but to add the properties and methods to the object, constructor function is required. Okay, right. Just like x and y, I'm going to give student ID is equal to something, student name, and marks. Now we can see same object. It has created one object with the student ID, student name and marks. Now we can also see line by line. If you click on this arrow button, now we can see. So next point, I want to add a method. So how to add the method? Method is nothing but what? Function. So add a function to this keyword that will be stored inside the object. Now we are going to call return pass, for example. Okay, now if we just refresh, now we can see it includes a method. Result method is available. Now we can notice it includes 3 properties with one method. Like this, we can add any number of methods. Unlimited number of properties, unlimited number of methods we are able to add here. Okay, that's fine. And I would like to create. I would like to print each and every value independently. I mean, student ID separately, student name separately, marks separately, results separately. So what we have to follow, we can also print dot student ID. Got it now? This left side part, I mean this part will create an object and call the constructor function. So this is representing an object which is fully loaded with properties and methods. It is like just new means empty gun is there, no bullets loaded. Bullets are being added through the constructor function. So overall this process is equal to representing gun with bullets, means representing an object with the properties and methods. Based on that, we are calling which property? Student ID. Only student ID value we are extracting. That means we are shooting. That means one bullet is out. What is one bullet? Student ID is out. So now we can see the student ID value independently. Same like that, we can also try the remaining student name and whatever. See, simple, whatever we have created above, and same thing we are trying to access. And while calling the methods, we have to keep the brackets because it's a method. So when you keep the brackets only, it will be able to call the function, and we can see whatever we have written that will be printed in this place. That's why you can see like this. Pass it is printing. Okay, fine. So is this program good? I mean, output is coming. What we have expected is coming. Is the program good? No. Here blindly we are trying to return pass, right? It's not correct, right? So we have to check the marks. Based on the marks only we have to say pass or fail. Okay, fine. I'm going to add some code here. So just if this dot marks, every time you must and should write this keyword. You must and should. Understand? If you don't write this keyword, it will assume the marks as a local variable. I mean, a local variable may exist inside the function, right? It may assume the marks as a local variable. There is no such a local variable called marks. That's why it will be error. So in order to refer to the marks which is stored inside the object, compulsory we have to write like this. You can assume this as a representation of the object. So whatever you do with this, that will be given to the object, or that will be read from the object. Okay, so and here just 35 is a pass mark. So if so, then return the pass, otherwise fail. Okay, that's fine. This logic is okay, and we can write any more other statements too, such as suppose grade calculation or GPA calculation or whatever you wish. We can write any number of methods. Again, any problems in this code? Any issues? I mean to say any bad type of programming is there in this approach? Check it. Yes. What is the approach? What is the problem? Tell me. Static values. Yeah, somewhat correct only. Reason. Okay, that is another problem actually. So I meant to say the first problem that we have understood is, listen, every time we are writing new student, every statement, that is one of the issue, the bad type of programming in this approach. So every single moment once we have given new student, technically it is equal to creating a new object. Really we have only one student, but why are you creating that many objects? See how many times you are writing new student. Okay, 5 times you are writing, right? So technically it is equal to 5 objects. By definition, object is equal to one single unit, one single physical object. Okay, object is one single physical unit. So there is only one student. For representation of one student, one object is sufficient. So why you create multiple objects? If really 5 students are there, we can go for 5 objects. So one student is one object. You have to create only one object, but you have to access the same every time. Then what to do? We have to store this object reference in a variable, any variable name, for example, yes is equal to this one. And we have to use that reference variable every time. Here reference variable means a variable which represents the object, which is not an object but which contains the address of the object. So simple, reference variable look like this. Reference variable, suppose yes contains reference to object. It will contain a reference to object. What you can say, address of the object also we can say. So at any point of time through this yes, we are able to access the same object. Every time we say yes here, yes dot student ID, yes dot student name, indirectly it will go to the object and read the properties and methods inside it. So now we can refresh. Same output we got. We got exactly same output, but this is the correct approach because we are not creating 5 objects, but we create a single object, but we access the same every time. This is perfect. Okay, right. And now we are going to create one more object. We have a second object. Okay, so I'm going to access these properties and methods through this reference variable. Okay, got it. Now we are going to create one more object. For example, we have S2. S2 is not an object. S2 is a reference variable. New student, this is one object. Again, new student, another object. Just for accessing them, we are going to have the reference variable like S and S2. But S and S2 are the just reference variables. Now we can notice exactly same data is being printed. Now we can notice exactly same data is being repeated here and here. Is it really good? Is it like the school has 2 students and but for both students same student ID, same student name, same marks? Is it good really? No. So every student is having his own ID, his own name, his own marks, his own identity, his own result and everything. Isolated. Just like I'm a person, you are a person. I'm having my name, you are having your name. I'm having my face, you are having your face. Even though both of us are persons, but we are different, right? So similarly, every student is having its own data. Then what to do? It is not recommended to provide the fixed values here, but we have to pass that values dynamically from here. What are the values we have to pass? We can pass, for example, 1 at 1 ln 80. That's it. 3 values enough to pass, right? Result will be displayed automatically. So these 3 values what you are passing dynamically will be received here. I mean to say these values will go here. So into any variable names, for example, ABC, for example. So this A has to be assigned into student ID. B has to be assigned into student name. C has to be assigned into marks. And now we can pass different values from here. So in the first case, we have given one type of values. In the second case, we have given a different values. Now we can notice different objects are being printed, I mean different values. That's perfect. So this is all about the constructor function, how to create multiple objects. Now let us start the TypeScript language. So certain basics of TypeScript language is required in order to understand the Angular. I mean to say the TypeScript basic execution, and we can say data types, classes, objects, and also inheritance interfaces. Okay, these points are required in order to understand the Angular. So these points I'm going to cover here. So first, TypeScript. What is TypeScript here? TypeScript is a new programming language which is developed based on JavaScript. So that means TypeScript is superset of JavaScript. So that means what are the concepts of JavaScript as it is works in TypeScript, but additionally some new features have been added which were really missing in JavaScript. So if you take a plain JavaScript, I'm going to say JavaScript 5. If you consider JavaScript 5, it includes certain concepts, okay, such as variables, operators, control statements, objects, okay, and also we have DOM manipulations, validations, string and date functions, okay, arrays, okay, arrays should be here actually, and some other miscellaneous features if any. So these are the main items inside the JavaScript 5. So based on this JavaScript 5, I wanted to extend this JavaScript 5 by adding some additional features. That is, I'm going to add classes, objects can be created based on classes. See, I want to say objects are already available in JavaScript 5, already has shown you, but objects based on classes, I want to create the objects based on the classes. And additionally, inheritance, interfaces, plus moreover, first point, data types, like this, some other additional miscellaneous features. So all this set of items I would like to add. So this complete set is called as TypeScript. So TypeScript is really the superset of JavaScript. What are the statements code we have written in JavaScript as it is, you can copy paste into TypeScript programming language. It works as it is, but additionally on the top of it, these many features have been added. So TypeScript is equal to JavaScript plus these additional new features what I mentioned here. Okay, so why it is required for us? What are the benefits of TypeScript language for us? So it gives you class based object oriented programming. Means first we have to create the class. Based on the class only we have to create object. I mean to say previously also, just before a moment, in JavaScript we have created object through new keyword, and we can add the properties and methods and we can call them. So we can do anything with this. But this object is not created based on the class. This object is just independently created. So what are the properties you thought you can just write yourself. We have not created any class. In JavaScript 5, no classes. But now if you go to other server-side languages, maybe Java language or otherwise PHP language or C#.NET. So if you go to any other technologies, we can create the objects based on the classes. So I want to bring the same kind of programming experience into the client side. Then what to do? We have to use TypeScript language. So TypeScript language adds classes to the JavaScript. TypeScript language supports the class-based object-oriented programming. That means first we can create a class. Inside the class we can define the properties and methods. Then based on that we can create the objects, a number of objects. So all the objects will have the same kind of look and feel. I mean same list of each properties and methods. So we can ensure that every object of a particular type will have the same set of members. For example, you are going to read the data of the multiple students is inside one array, but if the objects are having different fields, we are unable to read the data. For example, one student object is having marks, other student object may not have marks. If it is so, how can we read the value of marks, and how do we check the marks? How do we write if condition for that? You're storing multiple objects inside one array, reading the array, and we are doing the operation inside the looping, inside a for loop. So if the marks are not present in every object, how do you read the value of marks in every object, and how do you check it? Not possible. So we cannot do any real-time programming if we don't know clarity about the list of members. All the objects must and should have the same set of properties and methods, so that we can write the real-time coding, we can display, we can do anything with that. That will be the perfect approach. So, but if we can come back to the JavaScript, there is no guarantee that all the objects are having same set of properties and methods. I mean to say, for example, we can add some extra properties. For example, here, see the student ID, student name, marks, result, already it is there. But we are trying to add some new thing. For example, email equal to some allen@gmail.com, and we can print it. See, the allen@gmail.com, I mean email address also have been added. So even though we have used constructor function, we are able to add the new properties. So there is no 100% guarantee that some extra properties may exist here, and we can delete some existing properties too. So there is no guarantee of uniformity of multiple objects, even though we are using constructor function. But classes gives you such a guarantee. So that's the reason classes are better than the regular objects. Okay, anyway, sometimes you require the complete freedom of having any number of members of your choice, but sometimes you don't want. Sometimes you want achieving the uniformity, sometimes you want the freedom. So there should be a balance of both of these. Exactly, that is supported by TypeScript. I mean to say, in TypeScript, we can also create constructor functions. We can follow the same approach, same code what we have followed for JavaScript, as it is works for a TypeScript. Okay. At the same time, it is able to create objects based on the classes. So classes with objects supported. At the same time, constructor function object literals also work. So 100% developer choice if he wants to follow uniformity among multiple objects. I mean to say, all the objects should be having same set of members, so that he can read the data from an array and we can display the data in a table format. So he can do anything with that, right? So if that is the case, we have to go for the classes. No. Every object should be having independent members. I mean to say, suppose some objects are having more number of properties, some objects are having less number of properties. So if it is so, then you can go for the objects. So we have multiple objects. Assume all the objects should be having same set of members, means use classes. Each object should be independent. I mean the same list of members may not be there. Then go for the object literals. So then the TypeScript supports both. Classes it supports, object literals also it supports. Constructor function also supports. So it's your choice whether you want to use which one. So the next one, data types added, right? So data types means we can store the particular type of value only. I mean, while creating a variable, we can store the particular type of value. Okay, I want to assign only the numbers. I want to assign only strings. We can give the particular data type. But in case of JavaScript, there is no any data types. Are you declaring any variable like string or number anywhere? No, we cannot give any data type. JavaScript doesn't support data types. So we cannot restrict the variable to have a particular type of variable. But if you go back to C language or C++ or otherwise Java language, we must create a data type for every variable. By mistake also, if you assign wrong type of value inside it, suppose instead of a number we have assigned a string, you will get error. So that facility is provided by the TypeScript language. So I'm going to say type safety is achieved. Say type safety means we can give a particular data type for the variable, and if you assign wrong type of value inside it, automatically we'll get errors. So there is a guarantee, systematic guarantee that okay, this variable always will have the same set of numbers, same type of value. So that is a meaning of type safety. And also we can create the interfaces much like Java language or other programming languages. We can create the interfaces, and interface contains a list of methods. The list of methods must be implemented by the classes. So we are able to implement any interface. Multiple interfaces can be implemented in the same class also. So whatever the programming of interfaces we already know in Java or other languages, same thing can be created in the TypeScript. I mean to say interfaces not at all supported by JavaScript but supported by TypeScript. So what are the features or important features are missing in JavaScript? Those are fulfilled through TypeScript. But one more thing, TypeScript cannot execute directly. Cannot execute directly in the browser. TypeScript cannot execute directly in the browser. So that's why TypeScript program must be converted into JavaScript. So we have created some TypeScript program that must be converted into JavaScript. Then only JavaScript can execute. Browser supports only JavaScript. TypeScript not supported. So developer likes only TypeScript, not JavaScript. So what I mean to say, developer must write the code in TypeScript. He is converting the same into JavaScript. JavaScript code will be given to browser, and finally browser executes JavaScript code only. Understand? JavaScript, browser cannot execute the TypeScript, so JavaScript code only browser executes. So we have to convert, means compile the TypeScript program into JavaScript. So this is the introduction to TypeScript language for us.